Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic Live. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. I'm actually getting pretty excited about this whole Lindell trial out there right now. I think Coomer I really think he's panicking. I don't think he even believes he can win at this point. There's even rumors of him crying on the stand. I've got a special guest that's going to be joining the show today, but he has also hired a private investigator to track Mike's every move. The only thing he hasn't told us so far is when Mike goes to the bathroom and what kind of job he's doing in the bathroom. It's pretty nuts. You're going to love this. But I got to mention my sponsor really quick, folks, Birch Gold. Okay, look, in the past 12 months, the value of gold has risen 30%. So whether it's gold or silver, I get some of both. I keep it around. I think it's just it's an inflation hedge. It's something to use in times of economic collapse as a modicum of trade. But central banks are buying gold in record quantities. So demand does not seem to be subsiding. The real reset is on the horizon. And many states, folks, are moving. In fact, Florida just made gold, silver, precious metals legal tender currency again. So I know a couple other states have done this as well. So to find out more about gold, just text Lumberjack to 989-898. Again, that's Lumberjack to 989-898 to get your free info kit on gold or silver. There's no obligation. It's just useful information, folks. You can even convert an existing IRA or 401k into tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. I always stress this physical gold because you can buy gold funds. And like, where is the gold? So the COMEX has real issues. We've talked about that before. But, folks, go check them out. Birch Gold, 989-898. Text Lumberjack. All right. I got to bring in my special guest. I'm so excited about this show today. I'm so excited because to me, this is a move of panic. So Ash, everybody welcome Ash to the chat. You can hand clap her in. Oh,
hi guys.
And please smash that like and do chat in with where you're from. I see Sheridan, Texas on the stream. Decker's Bows, good to see you on, Gerald. A bunch of great folks on. So Ash, you're covering this trial. You're out there hearing all the words of Eric Coomer, Mike Lindell et al., waiting with bated breath in the courtroom. Tell us your feeling of what's going on.
Yeah, so I was in the courtroom on the first day. I'll be back tomorrow and probably part of Friday. My husband's out of town this week, and so juggling all the kids' schedules and football camp and all that kind of stuff, I couldn't be there. But I am planning on being there all week next week when Mike brings his defense. This is the best chance we've had of getting the evidence of election fraud into court of law. So, and before jury, which is great. Yeah. It's not just going to be a bench situation where a judge with a certain incentive structure is able to, dismiss a case on standing or whatever before we get to the merits of it. So that's exciting. So I've been following the pleadings, and there's a couple of people I know in the courtroom that have been giving me the play-by-play while I'm not there. So it's, relatively secondhand. You mentioned that he cried on the stand yesterday. I heard that as well from folks that were in the courtroom. The way it was explained to me was he was able to manufacture some tears at the appropriate moments.
That stuff Hollywood actors do. They got that stuff.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah, he's also. I was an observer. I would say he's been eating his feelings. He looks very different than he did in the video of the body cam that I think you played part of that yesterday.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. That's good TV. I don't know. Yeah. I've never seen anything like that on police body cam.
Yeah, it was great. And when it happened, we were all like, wait, what? He drove his car into a truck into a building. And it was like, well, yeah. And then he lied about it to the police for like 90 minutes.
90 minutes.
And I don't know if it was 90 minutes. I think the entire encounter was 90 minutes. But
no,
for the majority,
I think it was over 2 hours. I looked at the entire encounter. I thought it was 2 hours and 1 minute or something. But maybe
so then probably about 90 minutes because it was the majority of it that he was like, no, I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What?
We have witnesses. We have witnesses that said that a guy in a plaid shirt, fled the scene and ran down here to this bar, and he looks down at his plaid shirt and he's like, I don't know. Wasn't me.
What?
His keys were in his pocket.
I know.
Like, are you the only one driving your car? Far as I know, your keys are in your pocket. So
far as I know, that's just such a legal.
Answer is yes.
It's such, he's a joke. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I cannot take this guy seriously, but we have to take him seriously because he's literally suing Mike for, I don't even know how much money, because it doesn't say.
Yeah. And we have to take him seriously, Neil, because he is a critical factor of our U.S. election system. So he was, at the time of the 2020 election, the product strategy and security leader for Dominion Voting Systems. He said, as you read yesterday, any vulnerability comes to me. I manage.
Ash, you there?
Oh, did I freeze? Can you hear me?
You freeze framed and your sound cut out. So
Am I back?
you're back.
Okay, where did I leave off?
You were talking about Eric and his job as being why we have to take him seriously, because he's the VP of strategy and security at Dominion.
Former,
yes,
but at the time of the 2020 election, he was the vice president of product strategy and security for a voting system vendor that is that is used in I don't know how many states Dominion is in, but it's not insignificant, and it certainly has, the swing states. So when he says, the whole vulnerability process comes through me, and then all of my personal opinions are irrelevant to this matter, when he's out, like he talked about divorcing his family, right? Cut me out of your life, unfriend me, untrump me, get out of my life if you would even consider voting for him. It is he's a threat to democracy, et cetera, et cetera. And he was the guy in charge of security for the voting machines. That is relevant, and
very relevant.
And those Trump posts are in, so the jury will see them. I think they saw some of that yesterday.
They did get those, because I mean, like, his body cam footage, that's out.
That's
correct?
out.
That's out. His talk about holding his wife on a leash, having her bark like a dog, and calling her in some sort of sexual humiliation act. That's all out.
Yeah.
And
that's not editorializing, right? He says in there, she's going to get the embarrassing effect that she's looking for. Yeah. And she divorced him, so maybe she was looking for it, maybe she wasn't. But it was a sexual humiliation ritual. He kind of admits that.
Yeah, well, that's what he called it in his writing. This guy's a nut job, folks. I mean, I just need you to understand, he's an absolute whack. I mean, you can't say all this stuff, do all this stuff without being kind of whacked in your head. And now so there's a couple things specifically I want to ask you about. But first, let's get to his big motion that he filed this morning. That was just this morning, correct?
Yeah, one of them was this morning. So he's filed 3 motions in the past 2 days. Monday night, he filed... Monday night was, I believe, the Joe Altman order. And actually, let me look at that. I have the docket pulled up. So Monday night was, his trial. It's a trial brief regarding potential invocation of the reporter's privilege by third-party witness Joe Altman. So this has to do with Joe Altman is expected to testify as early as today, this afternoon. So Eric Coomer's on cross-examination this morning. They finished, I believe, direct examination yesterday of him. And the cross-examination of him will be this morning by Mike Lindell's attorneys. After that, it's possible that it'll be Joe Altman. It's possible that they'll call somebody else. Anything can happen at trial, and you can change it up when you're in the middle of it. But when he testifies, Joe Altman, he's expected to invoke reporter's privilege on the identity of the witness that got him on the alleged Antifa call. And Eric Coomer's attorneys on Monday night made the argument before the court. She hasn't ruled on this yet, but made the argument before the court that he has already tried to invoke reporter's privilege and has been denied by 2 other courts, and that it is that those 2 other courts found probable falsity. So he can't do this because other courts have said he's lying. Now that matter is on appeal, and Mike Lindell's attorneys have already made that kind of response. That was one of the first things that happened in trial on Monday, was they made the response saying, listen, this is on appeal. If the appellate courts overturn this and you've used this before this jury, then this trial is tainted. So you can't let this in because it would be unduly prejudicial. And oh, by the way, it's on appeal already. So she hasn't ruled on that. I keep refreshing to see if there's any updates coming in. So that was the first one that was Monday night. Then yesterday he filed the protective order. And I think you went through some of that potentially yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's his therapist's notes and records of his therapy. I'll always, all day long, agree that should be kept out. People, you shouldn't be able to compel people's therapists' notes into a civil case in a court of law, right?
Correct,
there might
because
be
that could go totally bad the other way.
Yeah.
Like that just makes it so people could never
It's a
go see a
violation of all
therapist.
of our rights and privacy, in my opinion. Certainly for a civil case, there could be a case to be made in a criminal case that should be produced, right? If he was like a murderer and the therapist knew about it, whatever, like you could probably find a use case where that would be appropriate in a criminal case. I don't think people's therapy records should be dragged into civil court ever. I think
What do you
that's
think
wrong.
in the chat? Just curious. I mean, do you guys see where we're coming from here? I mean, here we are kind of coming to, you could say we're coming to Coomer's defense, but no, we're actually coming to everyone's defense.
All of our defense.
Yeah, it's a universal thing. So,
and that's always how I look at this stuff. Is what is the rights? What is the rights-based issue, right? When we're dealing in court and we're arguing about whether or not certain evidence should be in or out, or certain arguments should be made. If you're if the court is, and this is what I think happened in Tina Peters' case, if the court is putting their thumb on the scale and limiting what the jury can see in a way that is prejudicial, then that's a terrible thing for me. I don't see that yet in this case. And I'm never the person that's going to start a trial with the judge is corrupt, I just don't believe that. I think trial is about the facts, the evidence, and the law. And a lot of the cases that we've had outcomes that we don't like in the election integrity movement, the truth movement, I personally think a lot of those decisions can be traced back to failing in the trial. You didn't bring the appropriate arguments. You didn't, hedge off the other side's arguments. There's a good amount of that's happened. I think President Trump's
there is, because we've followed these cases ad nauseum over the last number of years, and I would get very upset when I would see certain arguments being made in court, and I'm like, are these attorneys trying to lose? That was honestly the thought I had. Are these controlled opposition? Because, and I read Ted Cruz's book years ago when he talked about that because he was an attorney, right? And he talked about the fact that you always need to, what matters is the case you bring, the case you can win. Yeah. And that's all that matters when you're going into that court. You can't follow down ancillary roads and that type of thing. But I mean, Coomer, I want to get Coomer's.
Hang on, before we move off this topic, I just want to address one of the in your chat says your naivete is precious. Listen, I understand everybody's cynicism, but I went into federal court and I had attorneys that were, in my opinion, not doing great legal work. So I fired them and I did it myself. And I focused on the facts and the evidence and the law and hedged off the other side's arguments and tied up every loose end. It was a full-time job for me to both learn the law and prepare for trial. But because of the effort that Holly and I put into it and what we were able to do, we won. It really,
I know.
And it was a Biden appointed judge, first openly LGBTQ judge in the District of Colorado. Act Blue donations, said she only became a judge because Trump, right? Like we were expecting there was no way we were going to be able to get a fair trial. Our goal was preserving the record for appeal because we thought we were going to lose because we had that mindset.
Yep.
Of, you can't get a fair trial on elections stuff anyway. And you certainly can't get a fair trial in Colorado, but it actually, I believe, does come down to the quality of the legal work. And, I said President Trump's 14th Amendment trial to me is a perfect example of this. The reason there was ever an insurrection finding is not because the judge was corrupt. It's because President Trump's attorneys in that case did not dispute it in any meaningful way. They didn't argue against the substance of the J6 report. They just said it was political. And the judge was like, well, yeah, but there's evidence in here. So we're going to look at the evidence that's in here. And they never effectively argued against that evidence. That's why there was a finding of insurrection. It wasn't corruption. And it's real easy to go immediately to, oh, the judge is corrupt. And I get it. We've seen a lot of corrupt judges. I think that in Tina Peters' trial, I started out in the same position. I'm never going to start with the judge is corrupt. But as soon as I saw the judge showing open bias in front of the jury in that case, it became pretty clear that there was something else going on there. I don't see that yet in this case.
Yeah, and to your point, I want to make the point. It's not that it doesn't happen, but if you go in with that as your mindset going into a trial, well, then you're going to just potentially lose. You've got to
confirmation bias too, right? You're going to see it everywhere. You're going to see it, yeah.
Yes, and I think actually Mike made a statement yesterday about that too, and said that the judge has been acting fairly so far.
Yeah, it's in the motion that statement is in the motion that Coomer filed today. So that's the third one. So we talked about the protective order. There's other stuff than his therapy notes, like attorney-client privilege stuff, settlement agreement stuff. One thing about K2 Intelligence, there's a referral from K2 Intelligence that they're asking to be held confidential. And the protective order is not this stuff can't be presented to the jury. It's if this stuff is presented to the jury, the courtroom needs to be cleared. No members of the public, no press, any transcripts need to be redacted, and all of the exhibits need to be redacted and kept under seal, even in post-trial motions, even in the appellate courts. That's what Coomer is asking for.
I got Sam, there's actually a bunch of them. Leah Hoop's case is a fantastic one.
Also defended herself.
Pro se. And one thing that I've noticed is, and I've long believed this, I have never hired an attorney in my life, except for one time because I was in a partnership and the partners wanted an attorney and then the deal. They just felt that we needed one. But otherwise, I've never hired, I've gone through business situations and whatnot, and I always just represent myself and I just get it done because I do not believe, number one, I think the attorneys are too expensive, and I don't think they really care about me. On a whole, that's the problem. And so there's been a number. Actually, we won. Trump won Wisconsin on the indefinitely confined. It's just the remedy would have taken too much time with the date. But he was ruled correct that was not that the indefinitely confined voters. There's a bunch of cases. This is the problem. The media says that we haven't won any. We actually won a significant number of them, and then the others were dismissed based upon standing, latches, whatever. I don't want to go down that road. I just wanted to address that really quickly because I want to pull in this.
I would give you one more example. Judicial Watch versus Griswold. Jenna Griswold signed a consent decree about inflated voter rolls. That was a big one. There are many. Yeah, but you're not going to hear about them. And what people really want, Neil, I think, is that we win a case and then elections are declared illegitimate and then all these people get arrested, right? And then we hold new elections and then everything is fixed and we can go back to living our lives and not worry about this anymore.
Well, that's what I thought was going to happen at the offset of this.
In 2020, sure, yeah. But freedom is only possible by constantly struggling for it. And it has become very clear over the past 4, 5, 8 years that there are many people that are trying to eliminate our ability to be free and live our lives and self-govern.
So I want to address this because this is the motion that Coomer filed just this morning. Okay. So attorneys for Eric Coomer filed a notice with the court Tuesday alleging that Mike Lindell is non-compliant with the court's media order because he is speaking to the press on lunch break and because the X account Real Mike Lindell is posting during the trial. Now, just so you know, there is not a gag order on this case.
Correct.
Okay. So everybody needs to understand that first off. There is so when you're in the courtroom, Ash, you cannot tweet, you can't blog, you have to then leave. And Mike Lindell, from all I've seen, all of his media appearances have been outside the courtroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are.
That's what Coomer is complaining about
that. It's the substance, I think. For the press conferences outside of the court, what he's arguing is that the substance of them is revealing what's happening with testimony at trial. I don't think that's unlawful. I don't think that's a violation of the order, but that's what they're alleging with the press conferences. And then the real Mike Lindell account, well, that could be run by his team.
Exactly.
You know, it's not necessarily he's the one posting. Now, we are allowed to draft our reporting while it's happening. We're just not allowed to press publish. And this is something I reached out to the clerk of the court before there was even a media order in this case because I was planning on attending and I didn't want to get in trouble. And so I got the instruction. Then the media order came down. The clerk emailed me back and said, here's this media order. And it's like, this is extending to live tweeting, live blogging, live posting. So I emailed him back and I said, does this mean that I can't post at all during the time that the proceedings are going on? Or does it mean that I can draft, like, can I draft my reporting while it's going and then on a break go out and either in the media room or the hallway publish it? And he said, yeah, you can publish. You can, my question was centering around when can I press publish, right? When can I press post and not be in violation of the court's order? And it said, yeah, it's you can't actively document and post live the testimony while it's happening. As soon as we go on a break, you can go out and post your reporting. 9 News can go out and file their story on a break, right? So I did that the first time on Monday and published from the hallway. And then when we came back from the break, the judge said something about not being able to do stuff in the hallway. So every time after that, I went outside the courthouse and I didn't even draft my posts in Twitter. I drafted them in the notepad on my phone because I didn't want to accidentally post, I was like scared I was going to accidentally do it. And so I did them all in notepad, and then I would go out on the break and just copy paste into a thread and publish the thread. That should be fully compliant. And I took every precaution and effort to make sure I was in compliance. If they come back based on not Mike Lindell's activity, but the journalist's activity in this and try to gag or try to say that, we can't document what's going on anymore, I think that then rises to a content-based restriction on the First Amendment. I was talking to Emerald about this yesterday. I'm like, dude, I'll go up there and make the case to the court. Like you can't. It's so content-based for restrictions on the First Amendment is entirely unlawful. You can't do it. It's in the case law repeatedly. They can't say everybody has these rules, but if you're posting in support of Mike Lindell or if you are an election denier, then you have a different set of rules. You can't do that. Yeah. It seems like we're kind of leaning into that. I'm interested to see if a gag order is put on this case. I'm interested to see if she does a media blackout in this case. If they do that, I think they'll state that it's Mike Lindell is the reason for it, but I actually think the reason is us. I think they don't. They want the official narrative. They don't want the alternative facts presented.
All right. I swear, can you hear my kid? He sounds so loud out there to me. Okay, good. Because he's a loud kid. I love him. He's loud. Anyways, just to go on, I just want to finish up this point, and then I've got a couple other things I want to move on to. From Coomer's notice, civil contempt sanctions or those penalties designed to compel future compliance with a court order are considered to be coercive and avoidable through obedience, anyways, and thus may be imposed in an ordinary civil proceeding upon notice and opportunity to be heard. Plaintiff hereby provides the court with evidence of Mr. Lindell's ongoing disregard for this court's order and potential poisoning of other witnesses, including Mr. Altman and jurors. Don't worry. According, Eric Coomer, Joe Altman is just Joe Altman. He's not going to be poisoned by hearing a media report. He's probably already covered it all. Civil contempt in the federal courts is a component of its inherent powers. This notice cites a private investigator hired by Coomer's team, ostensibly to track all of Lindell's activities during the trial. There are no updates from the court. So we still don't know what she's decided on this order. But can you imagine being so desperate, knowing your case sucks so bad that your biggest concern is having a private investigator follow the pillow guy all around to see what he's doing when he's going to the bathroom, when he might be hitting post on that tweet? It is absolutely wild to me. I think, honestly, what this shows is his lack of confidence in his trial. And I will note, the more I learn about this trial, the dumber I think it is. Yeah. Folks, you need to understand this, but pay attention. He is going after. So when I read the opening testimony bit at the beginning, it's like, he's a traitor, and what was the exact words? God darn it. Ash, you probably got him handy. Yes, here it is. You are disgusting. You are a traitor to the United States of America. Here's what's interesting about that. So Mike was upset because Coomer was going after MyPillow. Okay, so literally that's when this was said.
That is the best way to piss Mike Lindell off, is to attack pillows.
He'll call you an ambulance chasing asshole.
Yeah. You're an asshole, ambulance chaser.
So you guys understand that this is what they're going after Mike for. It is unrelated, actually, to the claim that they have of Joe Altman, which is what they're saying that then Mike did. It's really wild. So they're going after Mike for something somebody else said, and then trying to tie this statement about his pillow company into this. It is the weakest case I've ever seen in my life for defamation. And defamation is this extremely high bar. Nonetheless, it's costing Mike millions of dollars in attorney's fees, lost time, things that he should be working at his business, MyPillow, because he needs to be there, because his company needs to survive, because he has employees that need jobs and everything else. And this is the idea behind lawfare. So go buy some pillows. MyPillow.com/lumber. How'd you like that segue? Lumberjack. Or call 1-800-568-2865. Folks, the Giza sheets are $49.98. What I want to see is Mike Lindell on the steps of the courthouse hawking some sheets. That'll really piss Coomer off. Anyways,
I'm a big fan of the toppers. People should get a topper. It will absolutely transform your sleep experience if you get a mattress, MyPillow mattress topper.
Really? See, now I don't have that, but my kids have it, and they love it. They love the mattress topper. So, folks, there's all kinds of great stuff you can get over there. I am such a big fan of the Giza sheets. Absolutely love them. Think they're the greatest sheets known to man.
Oh, the towels are good too.
The towels are the best towels ever.
Yeah, they're great.
They're freaking phenomenal. And then the travel pillow, that's what I take elk hunting.
Yeah.
So
I travel with my travel pillow. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Buy MyPillows. You hit on something that's really important. The kind of key defamatory claim is Joe Altman's assertion that Eric Coomer attended an Antifa call and said, Trump's not going to win. I made fucking sure of it. Sorry if I'm not allowed to curse.
Yeah. That's okay.
I know yesterday you're like, I can't read these posts. And when we were on the air on my show on Friday, I'm like, F this. And I'm like, okay, audience, I'm going to read this. And it's super offensive. So if that offends you, you have 5 seconds. And then I just read all of it. That's pretty horrible stuff. But
it's what he said. I mean, we're kind of reporting what he said, but I just use effing,
Yeah,
I got kids who watch my show,
as we should. Yeah.
Homeschool.
Yeah, it was Friday night and I was going for effect. So the key claim is this Antifa call that it was then, editorialized at reporters, and Eric Coomer has sued everyone on this, right? That reporters then editorialized and said he rigged the election, et cetera, et cetera. That's the key claim. At the time that Mike Lindell was served with this lawsuit, it was when I was there. I was working for Mike at the time, and I was with him when he was served with the lawsuit. We were at the steps of the Colorado Capitol doing a press conference, and he was served while he was there. He had no idea who Eric Coomer was. He was like, who is this guy that's suing me? Who is this guy? Like, he had absolutely no idea who he was. And Eric Coomer has to prove that Mike Lindell had actual malice when he repeated Joe Altman's claims, and that makes it defamatory. And he should have to pay millions of dollars to Mike Lindell should have to pay millions of dollars to Eric Coomer because of the repeating of that claim. That is a really untenable defamation precedent to set. And if they set it federally in this case, it's going to be disturbing, because it's basically vicarious liability for defamation. And I don't think you can do that. I think that's prima facie violation of the First Amendment.
Yeah, this totally seems like the most unwinnable case I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And if the judge is being reasonable, okay. So there was. Let me bring this back in. This is from the Gateway Pundit, but it just had some good points I just want to read here. So we talked about this, quoting Mike Lindell. Kane then painted Coomer as coming from a military family. This is wild to me. This part's really interesting. Kane then painted, that's his attorney, Coomer is coming from a military family and a Colorado resident, given the case is being heard in Denver, by pointing out that he's been a resident since 1998 and loves some outdoor activities. They may also enjoy his Colorado residence. Okay,
this off-roading. He likes off-roading into buildings.
Yeah. Don't do that to me. I cracked my ribs up. That's really
Sorry.
sucks. That hurts. Oh my gosh. Stop.
Like Colorado pastime.
That's terrible. Okay. All right. So here you go. This is admissible. But the fact that he's been a complete moron in the course of his life, chaining up his wife or putting her on a leash and stuff, is not. So we can have this flowery stuff about Coomer. That's admissible. We'll build him up as just a beautiful guy who just loves the outdoors, loves Colorado. He lives in Colorado. He's just such a wonderful guy. But you can't bring up the real truth about the dude. Disturbing to me.
It is disturbing. To me, there are some posts of his that have been excluded. Now, I think they could still come in on cross-examination or in an attempt to impeach him if he lies or if they open the door. But things like yesterday, you went through the playlist, like the cop killer playlist, right?
Yes.
One of those is F the USA. One of those songs that he puts up is F the USA. That he's responsible for voting security. All those vulnerabilities come to me. I manage that whole process, and he's posting F the USA. The other thing is he doesn't dispute any of these posts. There he admits to Susan Dominus of New York Times Magazine in that glowing puff piece that she did on him that the posts were authentic and he meant every word. And that's the thing, was like, you can't go out and do that in the New York Times Magazine and then say, well, nobody can hear this because it might taint the jury pool. Bro, you tainted the jury pool. Yeah. Like you're the one that put all your stuff out there. A couple more things on this. The origin story of how he became involved in our elections, I think, is out. And I think that is incredibly unfair if that doesn't make it in. He was in jail, in the fetal position, on the floor, withdrawing from heroin after being arrested on multiple DUIs and thrown into jail. And 3 weeks later, he was sober and got a cold call from a voting machine company, and they wanted him to come program voting machines. Yeah. What? A cold call?
Cold call, just out of the blue. Hey, Eric, hey, Eric, I heard you were a recovering addict, and we thought, hey, I know you've had a lot of issues and you don't like the USA, but I thought, hey, you would be the perfect guy to handle security for our elections.
Elections, an industry that is based on integrity and preserving public trust. It's our democracy. And the answer was, well, he's the guy. He's the only one that can do it. He's the best guy for the job.
Best guy.
It makes zero sense.
Zero.
I mean, it's kind of, I was listening to Brian and Chris Paul on Daily this morning, and Chris Paul was like, sounds like that could be an intelligence operation. Yeah, I think it does kind of sound like that.
Sounds like an asset. I mean, how else does somebody get a cold call like that? I mean, we're not saying he is because we don't know, but it sure begs the question.
Yeah. The other thing that they're saying, as we talked about, or is irrelevant, is the car crash. And to me, the brazen lying to police during that exchange should be relevant.
Absolutely wild. And folks, if you haven't seen it, it's up on YouTube or it's on the stream I did yesterday. You can watch it in there. Plus a whole lot of other facts about Eric Coomer that will blow your ever-loving mind. All great reporting by Ash. And I know
I'm really glad I did that. It was like it was like 2021 and 2022 that I wrote those articles. They're super helpful now.
I know. And so Michelle's even posting the link to the article if you just want to go check out the article. So it is.
And there's another one, Uncuffing Coomer, which has the video of the arrest and all of it, has the police report and the details. He got a $250 fine for that, by the way. Points on his license and a $250 fine. They said they couldn't get him on drunk driving because he claimed that after he drove his car into a building, fled the scene, lied to police for a whole bunch, that he was telling the truth when he said he wasn't drinking. The reason that alcohol was on his breath was that when he got to the bar, he took a couple shots.
That was a smart move on his part. So one of the
why
things
isn't that before a jury? Let's put that before a jury.
Yeah, he's a crafty liar.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's wild to me uh, that even the cop says that in the police body cam video. Well, smart move on his part, but when he's talking to his attorney, um, what was the other thing? Oh, the other thing I wanted to cover with you is I was in reading the different things about jury selection. One thing that was very alarming to me, Ash, and I want your comments on this because you were there for the whole jury selection part.
Most of it, yeah.
There were 4 jurors who said that they had a bias against Mike Lindell. They didn't like his politics. 2 of those people are still on the jury. Am I
So not necessarily. So 4 people said they didn't think that they could be objective. I think
Yes.
one of those people was actually pro Mike Lindell. Said, love my pillow, love Mike Lindell. And she was reseated after that. So one of the people that was still on the jury was pro Mike Lindell. Now I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I think that person was later dismissed in the preemptive strikes that the Coomer team got, because they can do 3 on each side, that they don't have to explain why they're striking the witness. They can just say, you're gone. We don't want you on the jury. And I think she was dismissed at that point. But at the point that the question was asked, can you be unbiased? And 4 people said no, she was reseated. And I think it's because I think that was a pro. So it wasn't necessarily that those 4 people were all biased against Mike Lindell. They said that they couldn't be objective. Now, the 2 people that were dismissed openly said in court that they the one was the pink-haired lady with the mask. And
yes.
I call her the pink-haired lady with the mask. However, I think she was very honest and, didn't it would have been easy for her to be like, oh no, I can totally be objective. But she's like, listen, I'm really liberal and I know a lot about this situation and I don't think that I can be unbiased. That's what all of us should do if we really respect the jury process, the trial by jury. It's one of the most important parts of our criminal justice system and our judicial system broadly. And so I was, to the pink-haired masked lady leftist, I think she showed integrity in saying, listen, I can't be unbiased. And she was dismissed. The other guy that was dismissed at that point, that 4-person point that you're referencing, he also was openly, I can't be fair to Mike Lindell. I can't stand the guy. Right. And so they should have been dismissed. But the process of jury selection is you're weeding out the pool as you go, right? So you start with, are you 18? Are you a citizen? Right? Outcome determinative things. If you don't hit these qualifications, you can't serve on a jury. Then you get more into background. Do you have, any background in this type of thing that could bias you and make you not an impartial juror? Then you get into questions of, the what have you seen in the media, et cetera. Then the parties get to question the jurors and they can ask whatever they want. I mean, I think people could object, but nobody did. Nobody objected to the questions that they were asked, including the violent propaganda question, which I still don't understand what that means. What is violent propaganda? Because it's, they're talking about speech. They're talking about, promotional materials, but calling it violent. The plaintiffs invoked the Boulder Molotov cocktail Egyptian guy, and like, violent propaganda can lead to real world violence. We know that because Boulder, right? And so like there's this refinement process where you're trying to get to 8 jurors. And then at the very end, each side can strike 3. So you're sitting there with 14 jurors. You got to get to 8. You're getting rid of 6 and they don't have to say why they struck them. I do think that there's a couple of people that we're sitting in the courtroom and one of the jurors, Charity, who was next to me, she's like, he looks like a mini Coomer. And he did kind of had the same vibe. And like, we thought he for sure was going to be a leftist. He was the one that ended up answering the question. The question was, does the big lie as kind of a name for election denialism, does that resonate with you? That was kind of the question. And the guy that we thought was, Mini Coomer, he's like, no, both sides do this. Like, they denied the election in 2016, 2020. 2024, we're talking about Elon Musk, right? Rigging the election for Trump. Like, this is kind of just what we do. And so that was a surprise. And he's on the jury, that guy. He was not struck. So yeah, I told Emerald this yesterday when I was on her show. I might be in the minority, but I believe that Mike Lindell has a good shot of winning this case, because defamation is an incredibly high standard anyway. Defamation for public figures, you have to prove actual malice, and it's all vicarious liability of the speech of other people that Mike may have repeated or may have amplified through his platforms, but not even him himself repeated. And I don't think they can meet their burden.
No, in fact, in the pretrial motions, he talked about Section 230 because they're trying to get him for something Joe Oltmann said on a podcast on Frank's speech.
It was on Clay Clark's podcast, his Thrive Time podcast.
Oh, was that on Clay Clark's?
Yeah.
But anyway, something Joe Oltmann said anyways
Yeah.
on Frank's speech. That would be like YouTube getting sued for me saying something over on YouTube. That was the whole point of Section 230. That is why, folks, now I'm going to go off on a little sidebar tangent. That is why YouTube is not supposed to act like a publisher and make publishing decisions. That's why they're not supposed to be striking us and banning us, because they have Section 230 protections, because they're a platform, not a publisher. As soon as they start editorializing the whole thing, then they become a publisher, not a platform.
Yep.
That's the whole point of Section 230.
Yeah, remember when we were totally gonna like fix that, reform it, update it in Congress? People were like, "We have to reform 230," and then that just went away. There was no meaningful reform. Nothing.
No, Jim Jordan's hardcore, man. He'll do some strongly worded letters.
I hope so, man. Jim Jordan, I had such high hopes for, but it's like he's been documenting a record through the entire Biden administration, documenting a record, Trump administration, first one, documenting a record, still documenting the record. But it's kind of like, when are we gonna move beyond just when are we gonna act on the record? Yeah. If not now, when, Jim Jordan?
Yeah, and why is it that Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro were sitting in jail for defying congressional subpoenas, and it's never once, folks, never once. Tell me when it's happened to a Democrat.
Doesn't.
Tell me when the Republicans have enforced a congressional subpoena in such a manner.
I hope they do. This is like totally off topic, but
Coomer, no, I'm like in the chat. I want to know: does anybody know when this has happened? Did anybody, yes or no? Have you ever seen this?
I don't think it has.
I don't think it has. That's why I'm
but it could happen soon, because James Coomer just announced that he's dragging all the Biden staffers, anybody that he could even have anything to know or do about the auto pen. They're coming before the oversight committee, so some of them might defy subpoenas, and we'll see what happens.
It's real. Yep. Well, so you're going to be covering. I'll probably try and get you back on. I've got my kid's graduation from police academy here.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He was doing wildland firefighting in the state of South Dakota, and now he's joining one of the police forces out there. That's awesome. So we've got that and a wedding this weekend. So it's gonna be a little tougher. Next week, I'm still looking at trying to get out to Colorado. So
it'll be so fun. And like Palantir, which is also in the news, Palantir is like 8 blocks away from the courthouse. Really? So you could do like 2 different sets you could really make the trip worthwhile, Neil.
We could go into Palantir with video camera rolling. Hey.
And Boulder, is like 40 minutes away. So you could go up and do a little Boulder Molotov cocktail reporting as well. There's lots happening in Colorado. It's kind of ground zero for the military industrial complex.
Well, you guys are so. Do you know what's interesting about Colorado? And somebody made a comment, and I replied to it today on my channel. And he talked about how people need to get out of Colorado, and it's so bad. And they're right; it's bad. It's gone. Like there are 3 state legislators that are constantly in the legislatures that are constantly in the news, putting forth the worst, most woke, complete BS out there. One is Colorado. One is California. And the other is my home state of Minnesota. So it's really fascinating. But the other thing, and I guess what I find really fascinating about Colorado, is Colorado Springs was the epicenter for Christianity in the country.
Yeah.
So many ministries and churches were based out of Colorado. It was focused on the family, YWAM. I mean, it just goes on and on. I mean, the publishers, book publishers too, of Christian material. And now look at it. Like it's all Californians moving to Colorado. It's almost like Satan was like, Colorado's too conservative. Let's take them down, But I mean, 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think Satan is definitely taking that position. I also think it's important to realize that Colorado Springs is in El Paso County. El Paso County is the only county in the nation that's home to 5 military commands. We have every defense contractor has, if not their headquarters, a major installation in the state of Colorado and down in El Paso County. My son, when he was in high school, he was a hockey player, and we used to go to the Air Force Academy for, tournaments. And the, in the hockey rink, there's you play hockey, don't you? The advertisers, right, that are all around the outside of the ring, all DoD. Lockheed, Northrop Grumman. It is a stronghold of the military industrial complex. Now, the military industrial complex has used conservatives for a long time, conservative Christians, killing in the name of Jesus, right? We have to do this thing. We have to go to this war. We have to neutralize this threat because democracy or something. And so, conservative Christians who still, I think, do comprise the majority of El Paso County and Colorado Springs, they've been kind of swindled. And I think we all were, right? I was waving a flag for Bush for the war on terror back in the day, and misled with emotional propaganda about our need to protect ourselves and the fear and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. They're still doing it.
Yeah, that's not to say that that terrorism is not a real threat. I don't want to diminish that either. But
never let a crisis go to waste, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like they were doing the Rahm Emanuel playbook. We kept playing that during the Obama years. But the reality is, so it was interesting because, and this is way off topic of the original, but Iraq. I was like, well, yeah, I mean, they're crossing the red line. I mean, weapons of mass destruction, right? Yeah. The reality is Saddam Hussein, and I talked to an Iraqi Christian because I bought a vehicle from him down in Texas. Literally, they were digging a hole in their living room to get water. Okay. They were right there during the bombing and everything. And they got asylum over here and moved over here. He just loves America. I mean, he's the kind of person you'd want here. But he worked in, I talked to him about Saddam Hussein, and he had relatives who worked in Saddam Hussein's palaces because Saddam hired Christians because they were actually honorable and they wouldn't steal from him. And so I said, well, what was that like?
So that was a lie that we were told.
Yeah. And what else is really interesting, he said, Neil, Saddam was a bad man. He said he was not a good guy. But the reality is he was a stabilizing force.
Yeah.
So we're over there playing in that sandbox and thinking, oh, they're just all going to fall in love with American idealism. And that's not the case. And Saddam, now look at Iran, went so much more rogue after Iraq came out of the play. So
yeah, and what's the point of terrorism? Well, it's to make people be afraid. It's to make you live in fear that you're going to have to, right? What is one of the major stories that I've always been told about Israel is that they live in constant threat. They could be bombed at any time. There could be a suicide bomber on a bus at any time. They live in a heightened state of situational awareness and preparedness for defense because they can be attacked at any time. They want us all that way. They want us all to be terrified and looking to the government to protect us from these threats. Is terrorism real? Yes. Is it often manufactured by intelligence agents and assets to create a particular outcome, engaging color revolutions, those kinds of things? Yes, that's well documented that takes place. And keeping the American people in fear is something that I think is despicable, but very, very intentional and effective. And we see that. I was watching there was an interview on The Blaze with Liz Wheeler and Sarah Adams. Sarah Adams, who I think is billed as a former CIA person, and she was talking about there are suicide vests, and we know they're real because they were shown off at a terrorist recruitment camp in Afghanistan, and we know that they've made it here over the US southern border, and we know that these are a threat. And the DoD and the TSA And the FBI, these guys aren't taking it seriously. So we're probably going to have a suicide bombing attack or multiple suicide bombing attacks on U.S. soil. She doesn't say how she knows these things. She just says we. She says the CIA is ignoring the intelligence, and the TSA and FBI are ignoring the intelligence. So it's unclear where her intelligence comes from. No meaningful follow-up questions were asked by the host. But the net effect of that deployment, that narrative deployment, is be afraid, because suicide bombers are going to drop out of planes into the United States, or they're already here and they're going to start bombing at any moment. They want us living in fear of people from other parts of the world that want to harm us because we're so free or something. I mean, usually it's because we've destroyed their countries and taken their resources and overthrown their governments, but sure, freedom or whatever. And they want to keep us paralyzed in fear so that we're looking to the government, trusting the government to save us from terrorism. I'm not doing that again. I fell for that after 9/11. It caused behavioral change in our country that was unprecedented. The Patriot Act, HAVA came after that, right? We lost so much in the wake of that fear deployment. I'm not doing it again. And even if we do get a terrorist attack on U.S. soil, I'm probably going to be more oriented towards, well, the people that are in the process of losing their power because President Trump was elected. Those are the people doing it, not the terrorists from overseas, because a lot of those terror groups from overseas were created by our own government.
Yeah, no, well, you can even look at how they deploy assets here in the US, like the Whitmer kidnapping plot. And I mean, this is, something we could go on forever about,
Yeah.
but I think it's just appalling what agencies within our government have done. I love this country, but big government sucks.
100%.
And the foundational documents of this country, our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, Federalist Papers, all of that are beautiful. They're beautiful.
Yeah, the
and
founders
well
were isolationists.
Yes. So, well, folks, I thank you for joining us. I wanted to get this news out. We've got more news coming in the Lindell trial over the course of the next, obviously it goes till next Friday. I'm hoping to get out there maybe like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday type time frame, Ash. So we'll see if I can pull that off.
That's awesome. Yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
I'm just looking real quick before we go off to see if she has, there's no
update.
There's no orders, nothing from the court yet. So
go support Mike. Go buy yourself some Giza sheets or a mattress top or something. Right now, not only do you get the phenomenal deals, $49.98 on the Giza sheets, you do get a free travel pillow 2.0 with the free American flag cover and up to $100 in free digital gifts when you make a $100 order. So there's great deals over there right now. Go take advantage of it at mypillow.com /
Get a mattress topper. It'll change your life.
Change your life. That's what my kid said. He said it gave him once he got his mattress topper, he had better dreams.
Oh, I'll believe it. We needed a new, probably still do, but we don't feel it anymore. Needed a new mattress because it was older and everything. Instead, with the time, we couldn't afford a new mattress. So we bought a new mattress topper. That was 5-6 years ago. We haven't changed.
You got the memory foam mattress topper? Because there's a couple different kinds.
I have the original one, not the upgraded one with the cooling technology thing, because I got mine before that was available.
Gotcha.
I would have bought that if it was available.
You got yours before it was cool.
Nicely done.
Anyways, we'll see you on the next episode, folks. Remember to subscribe if you're new. Go check out Ash's handle, Ash in America on X. I have posted those handles. I'll post them one last time. I'll post my X handle for you as well. But go
and
give her
support Neil, guys, because Neil is gonna come out and cover the trial next week. The independent journalists, we don't have people giving us an assignment and deploying us with a per diem and an expense account and the all the money coming in to be able to do this. If you want people like Neil and I to be able to go in and go to trials and cover it, CanCon does a lot of that as well. It's all out of pocket for us. So support if you have creators like Neil, who I met you and Brian on the same day. We met at the Cyber Symposium. So it's been like almost 4 years that we've known each other. You want Neil to do the work, you got to support him. So definitely give him your support.
Well, that was a nice plug. Thanks, Ash. There are just so you know, folks, there's there is a Cash App and a PayPal down below in the description. If you want to do that, you're under no obligation. But if you do, I am always grateful. And for those that have, thank you so very, very much. Yeah, because I think, airfare I can't believe how much airfare has gotten
It's
here.
still really high. I would have thought it would have gone down. I was looking, there's a Badlander meetup in Florida later this month, and I really wanted to go, and it's like $300 round trip ticket, which just still feels so high.
Yeah, I know. We used to get tickets on the cheap. I mean, really on the cheap.
Maybe we'll make cheap tickets great again.
We should. I mean, I think one of the funniest things was watching the testimony before the U.S. Senate, where these people are getting commissioned for charging you more for your bags.
No.
Did you see that?
I did not see that.
So
but
these
the
gate agents for like Spirit and Frontier and all these places, they get $10 a bag when they get you to pay. Yeah. This is why my
so
daughter,
when they get you to gate check, they're getting paid for that?
Yeah. They're getting a commission.
Wow.
So that's why they'll tell you that your bag that fits in the box is too big. And since they're running the gate, you can argue with them, but you're not getting on
everything's a scam.
Freaking scam. Everything's a scam.
Scam.
Anyhow, we'll see you on the next episode, folks. Peace out. Love y'all. You're a great audience. All right. Ash, thanks for joining.